Story 1. I found a hidden room in my apartment, and now I'm terrified of 3:07 a.m. 2 years ago, I had an experience I'll never forget. I had just rented a small apartment in an old building. It was a real bargain, and I thought the slight decay added character. In the first week, everything was quiet. But one night, I was awakened by a strange sound, a faint tapping, like fingernails on wood. I thought it might be the pipes or something, so I ignored it. But then it became louder and more regular, always at exactly 3:07 a.m. I started wondering if someone was playing a prank on me. One evening, I decided to stay awake and track down the noise. Sure enough, at 3:07 a.m., I heard it again. It was coming from my closet. When I opened it, there was nothing unusual, just my clothes. But the tapping didn't stop. I pressed my ear against the back wall of the closet and could swear it was right behind there. Suddenly, the back panel gave way, and I found a hidden door. Behind it was a small room that definitely wasn't in the apartment's floor plan. In the center of the room was an old, dusty table with a chair and an ancient tape recorder. Curious and scared, I pressed play. What I heard sent chills down my spine. A soft, mournful voice repeating, "Find me." The next day, I confronted the landlord. At first, he avoided my questions, but he eventually admitted that the previous tenant had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. No one knew what happened to him. When I insisted on leaving the building, he simply said that I was the first tenant who had paid the full rent. Since then, I've had the unsettling feeling that someone is watching me, especially around 3:07 a.m. I moved out and never heard anything more about that building. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I still hear that faint tapping as if it's following me. Story 2. I answered a mysterious phone call at work and uncovered a haunting secret. A few years ago, I worked as a night security guard in an old office building. It was mostly quiet, until one night I noticed a light flickering on the top floor. When I went to check it out, the lights went out, and I found myself in darkness. I made my way to the source of the flickering and found an open office door. Inside, an old rotary phone began to ring, which was strange since there were no working phones in the building. I answered it and heard a whispering voice say, "Help me." Terrified, I hung up, and the door slammed shut behind me. I noticed a hidden compartment in the wall behind some fallen photographs. Inside was an old journal from a woman named Evelyn, who had worked there decades ago. Her last entries were filled with fear, as she felt something was after her. She disappeared without a trace, and the journal was a plea for help. The light suddenly came back on, and the door opened. I ran out of the building and never went back. Whatever had happened to Evelyn, I didn't want to be next. Sometimes I wonder if her ghost is still there, trying to reach out for help. I left my dog at my mother's house, so what's under my bed? It was quiet, very quiet, though the silence is what saved me. Through the thickening tranquility, I could hear the dog door in the kitchen. Thank God for that, I wouldn't be alone. I heard the padding of feet on the ground slowly getting closer. It had reached my room, and the door slowly creaked open. Though I couldn't see through the darkness, I could hear. The feet grew closer to me, and I could hear the shuffling of my dog crawling under my bed. Closing my eyes, ready to rest with the soothing sound of my dog's breath beneath my bed, I realized something. A bone-chilling thought that ran my blood cold. My dog is at my mother's house. She lives 45 minutes away. With a shaking breath, I slowly sat up. The breathing below was heavy, far too heavy for a dog. I gripped the blanket tighter and moved forwards. I leaned forward and tipped my head over the bed to see below me. It was too dark, so my vision was strained. Without looking, I reached over to my nightstand and grabbed my flashlight. As the small light flooded the space below, I caught my breath. There sat a man, staring right at me. He didn't look alive, but his breathing told me otherwise. The man had long black hair with choppy ends. His blue eyes were so pale they looked white. His skin had a light gray complexion. I sat there, frozen in fear. The man's eyes snapped to something behind my head, and he crawled back farther under the bed. I looked up quickly, but I couldn't see anything. I didn't trust the man wouldn't come after me if I removed the light from him. Slowly, I looked back under the bed. The man's eyes were still fixed on the other side of the room. Suddenly, his breathing stopped and his eyes went wide. For the first time in 5 minutes, his eyes met mine. He let out a shaky, "Run!" So I did. I sprang from the bed and flew out of my bedroom door, ran downstairs, and left through the front door. I only stopped once I was in the middle of the road that sat in front of my house. Behind me, I could hear the screams of the man under my bed. The pure terror in the sound sent chills down my spine. As I was staring at my house, the light to my bedroom flickered on, and there was a tall figure in the window, standing slightly tilted. The thing held up a number 2 and slowly put a finger down, leaving 1. It pointed at me. Sleep, my dear grandchild. I'm going to tell you my story that happened to me. I live in a small, underrated country that has been a part of the Soviet Union. In our country, there is a tradition where we either stay with the dead in a room for a while or sleep in the same room with them for the night before they are buried. So my friend invited me over to sleep with her for the night, because a relative of hers has died of old age, and she is afraid to sleep alone. At first, I hesitated, but my mom insisted that I should go because I might seem like a bad friend if I don't. So she sent me there and left me for the night. We had to sleep on the floor on a mattress because the dead person was on the bed. And there is something very important about this. Before the person would die, they were paralyzed, and they only have laid in bed before their death. So we got ready to sleep. I chit-chatted with my friend before she fell asleep, and I wonder how she could fell asleep in such a thrilling situation while I couldn't fall asleep or move because of the fear I had. It passed to midnight, and I hear the dead person sitting up on the edge of the bed as it turned, its head down looking at me as it muttered to me, "Sleep, my dear child. Let me rest in peace." Then I fell asleep like I was knocked in the head. I woke up and I immediately told my friend about this, and she told me that she heard it but couldn't see it. Till this day it gives me bone chills. Vanished into the blue. The following journal was retrieved from an abandoned fishing vessel found adrift off the coast of the Bonin Islands of Japan, with no signs of her crew. It is believed that the vessel is of North Korean origin. Day 1. Our engine gave out yesterday, and currents have dragged us far from our intended waters. Captain insists we're near Japanese territory, but I'm not so sure. The radio is dead, and the sea is eerily calm. Supplies are tight, and there's a tense silence among the crew. Hungnam seems haunted tonight. Day 4. We hit something in the dark. Maybe a reef. The hull's cracked and we're taking on water, but slowly. We've been bailing it out hour by hour. Food's nearly gone and the ocean has been stingy. No fish for days. Nights are worse, filled with sounds from below, groaning like the belly of the sea. The others hear it too. Day 8. Min-ho vanished last night. We searched at dawn but found only his clothes by the stern, damp and neatly folded. The sea was whispering again beneath the waves, louder now. It's a mocking, rhythmic pulse that grates on our nerves. Sleep is a forgotten friend. Our stomachs are empty, and our spirits emptier. Day 16. Something's circling us. It's not sharks. It's bigger, silent, making the water shift and sway unnaturally. Sang-hoon swears it's following us, waiting. We haven't spoken much today. Everyone's listening to that infernal sound from below. It's clearer now, like a chant or a call. I'm starting to feel it's inside my head. At 20. I found the captain speaking to the sea last night. His words were foreign, ancient-sounding, his eyes vacant and staring into the depths. By morning, he was gone. Just his cap left, floating beside the boat. We're not alone. I feel eyes on us, always from the water, always watching. Day 26. We're out of water. Rain hasn't come. The chant is a scream in my ears now, relentless. I can't tell if it's day or night anymore. The sky blends with the sea, and the sea blends with the sky. I saw Min-ho last night standing on the water just out of reach. He beckoned to me, then vanished into a swell. Day 31. I'm alone now. The others followed Min-ho one by one into the sea. They walked as if in a trance, smiling, like going to a feast. I'm too weak to follow, too afraid to stay. The chant is a promise, a threat, a lullaby. The water is rising, or maybe we are sinking. The reef isn't empty. It breathes and waits. Maybe I'll walk too into the cold embrace. Maybe I'll find peace. End of journal. The rest of the pages are stained with salt and unreadable.